It's officially June, and that means we're only 25 days away from the NHL Entry Draft.
You're Locked On Hurricanes, your daily podcast on the Carolina Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you to the Everyday for making this your first listen of the day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, talking everything about your Carolina Hurricanes. I'm your host, Zach Martin. I am the Carolina Hurricanes beat writer over at the Hockey Writers. I also do some AHL coverage over at the Calder Times. I am also the co-host of the Surgecast, which is a weekly Carolina Hurricanes podcast, along with all of my duties here at Locked On Hurricanes. Got a very exciting show for you today on a Monday, as our sights are now focused on the 2024 NHL Entry Draft. That starts on June 28th and 29th, which will be at the Sphere in Las Vegas, and on day one for the Carolina Hurricanes, will be that Friday the 28th. They have the 27th overall pick. So starting today, we're going to start doing some draft profiles on certain players that the Hurricanes could take at 27th overall pick or somewhere else in the draft, and just prospect profiles in general. But before we get into all of that today, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. So like I said, today we're going to be doing a lot of prospect profiles. We're going to start off with one in particular as the next few weeks go on. We're going to try to cover as many players as we can before we get to day one of the NHL Entry Draft, which will be at the Sphere, like I said, in Las Vegas, starting that Friday the 28th and ending on the 29th, where they do rounds 2 through 7. And the player that we're actually going to start off with is someone that I've talked to some guys who do a lot of prospect articles over at the Hockey Writers, and people in general who usually do a lot more draft coverage and stuff like that. And one name they always kept bringing up is Waterloo Black Hawks center John Mustard, who is originally from New Jersey, and over the last this past season, it was his rookie year in the United States Hockey League, or the USHL, for the Waterloo Black Hawks out over in Iowa, and for just how good he is as a player, and the fact of just when you look at how the season that he had in 23-24 with the Waterloo Blackhawks, he was actually named the Rookie of the Year just a few days ago, back on the 8th, and the fact that he had a really outstanding season for being a rookie. In 60 games with Waterloo, he had 29 goals, 27 assists for 15 points. And they did play 2 games in the playoffs, but didn't get any points. But all in all, the USHL named him the Rookie of the Year, and that's coming off a season where he had 29 goals, which led the entire team. And it makes sense for the fact that why he was named to that, of that award. And he was also chosen as the 23-24 AHL USHL Rookie First Team. So big honors to him, and also for the fact too that he is committed for the 24-25 season to the Providence College Friars. And the one thing about him, the fact that have him going to Providence, that makes the Friars forward that is John Mustard. He is viewed as the most prominent college and professional prospect, and deservedly so, for the fact that you look at a rookie season where he's 17 years old, from Oradell, New Jersey, comes in, born in 2006, he averaged 0.93 points per game. I guess you can't get anything better than that. We get 56 points in 60 games in your first, season in the USHL for the Blackhawks. And he's someone that, like I said, that has been mentioned a few times, and just of how his play style could fit the Carolina Hurricanes. And when you look at him overall as a player, I know when you look at just from his prospects, from being scouted, and what people are thinking he's going to be, and just looking at how he is as a player, the one thing that really stands out is the fact that his competing consistency is so high, and the fact that he is viewed as someone who, the fact that the way he plays his game. He is a competitive forward, but he also plays quick and fast, is what something, that's something that's really good the Hurricanes can use, because he's someone who's viewed as a guy with some pace. He's got a really high compete level, and he gets some high-end skill too. And for the fact that he's only 17, he is committed to Providence College, but is someone that could fit within their Carolina Hurricanes system. And like I said, just talking to all the draft guys and people who do a lot of the prospect looks and stuff like that and coverage have mentioned that John Muster is someone to take a look at. And even when you look at the NHL Central Scouting, he is ranked 27th in terms of North American scares, which would put him right in the perfect spot for the Hurricanes at 27. I know he's got an interesting name that a lot of people like, because I did a poll on X saying which player should we start off with first, and one of the options was John Muster, and a lot of comments that I got from people were saying that, can we just pick him just on the name alone? And yes, John Muster does have a great name. And we also do know that, it wasn't him in the conservatory with a candlestick, for all you Clue fans out there. So there is that good thing that's like, we know that, it's not one of those type of deals, but he's definitely someone to keep an eye on, like I said, for a center. And when you look at the Carolina Hurricanes overall, if you look at their center depth, you have Sebastian Aho as your first center. Then you have Jordan Stoll as your third line center, but then it kind of gets a little interesting at 2 and 4. You do have Jesperi Kotkaniemi. You also do have Evgeny Kuznetsov, and Kuznetsov goes into his last year next season with the Hurricanes. And then you also got Jack Drury, who's going to be an RFA coming into the 24-25 season, who is arbitration eligible. And then back on May 29th, the Hurricanes did sign Ryan Suzuki to a 1-year contract, which is a two-way that we talked about on Friday's show last week, where he's going to make $775,000. So you do have technically five centers on the main roster, but in terms of cap friendly, they do have Ryan Suzuki on the main roster. So he's technically your sixth center, but really the Hurricanes have 5 guys as of right now that are looking to possibly make the roster next year, because with Jack Drury being an RFA, it's more than likely he'll probably be back. If you look at the non-roster players, like a lot of guys you're going to probably see in Chicago, depending on how contract situations work. You do have Justin Robidas, who's got 2 more years left on his ELC. Blake Murray, who's another center, he's 22. Justin Robidas 21. Blake Murray's 22, and Murray's actually a restricted free agent. And then another guy you do have who's going to be an unrestricted free agent is Callahan Burke. He's the other center. He is 27, but he was part of the trade that sent Seth Jones over to Colorado, or not Seth Jones, Caleb Jones over to Colorado. So I'm really curious to see if the Hurricanes do keep Callahan Burke. I'm not 100% sure what they're looking at on that. So if you kind of take out the UFA and Burke, you really only got 2 centers in your non-roster depth positions in Robidas and Murray, and one of them being RFA. And if you look at if you had Ryan Suzuki, and you've got 3 centers that are technically not on the main roster. So for the Hurricanes, I know former president and GM Don Waddell said that the Hurricanes are going to be looking at trying to pick up a right shot center to kind of balance all their left shot centers they do have. I will say this, though, John Mustard is a left shot center, but despite that, I think it's good to have more center depth, because you are kind of, for the most part, kind of, lean in the center position, especially talking about true centers, because a lot of guys on the Hurricanes main roster can play, both center and wing. So you're talking, it's one of the things where you kind of want to be able to have guys fit in that maybe might be a true center, or someone just to give you some center depth that you truly do need. Yes, it's another left shot guy, but Mustard is someone that you definitely want to take a look at, because, like I said, you look at further scouting on just how he is as a player. He's definitely someone, like I said, he's quick, he's fast, he's got a really good pace, his compete level is really high, and he's got some high-end skill too. He does lean more into the shooting rather than being a passer type guy. And I know when, looking how he was scouted and stuff like that, his shot is more viewed into the upper echelons of like the mid 80s to almost closer to 90 just on his shots, but his skating's also at an 84, and his compete consistency out of 85 is at an 85 out of 100, and his offensive zone starts along with his hockey IQ are in the 80s. So that's something to really keep in mind on too, and the fact that he knows how to work the up and down side of the ice. He really does have a more north-south way of playing the game too, which could be really good for the Hurricanes when you're talking about guys who could possibly transition and stuff like that. One thing that the Hurricanes really benefited from was having guys like Martin Necas, Seth Jarvis, all those type of guys who can play fast, have some quickness, know how to have some good hockey IQ to play more north-south that you really do need, rather than a lot more of east-west. So adding a guy like John Mustard would be really big beneficial for the Hurricanes, especially when you have a center who isn't afraid to shoot the puck, but knows how to use his speed and his skill to get through defenses and be able to crash the net and crash the zones too. And that's one of the big things that really works for him, is the fact that on the playing off puck, he does jump into spaces to be able to corral pucks when trying to get some stretch passes, or even also extending plays too, because that's something you really need. It's like when you go into the offensive zone, is the fact that you have guys who can get in there, do the battles if necessary on the boards, and be able to control the puck, keep it away from defenses, and be able to play more of extending plays, keeping the ozone time up, and putting more pressure on the defense and stuff like that. So that's something that Mustard is really known for. And it shows, like I said, when you get 29 goals in your rookie season in the USHL, and you're probably one of the top prominent guys going into college, and even for the draft too, in terms of just being able to have good high upside offense, that's something that's really going to be beneficial for the Hurricanes if they do take him at 27. So there is a lot more we got to talk about John Mustard, and we will get to all that extra stuff about this player on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and load it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring them huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guarantee Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to segment 2 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So we're going to jump more into, the prospect profile that is John Mustard, the center from the Waterloo Black Hawks, who's going to be with the Providence College Friars this upcoming fall. And something else that's been very viewed of him as a player is the fact that he's projected by some people to say he might be a good middle six player, but he's also has a potential to be a good top six guy as well. So if you're looking at a possible second line center, possibly third line center, but I would definitely see him as a more second line center that could be a good compatible 2C to complement your Sebastian Aho that is a 1C. And I wrote that on Sunday for the latest Hurricanes draft target over at the Hockey Writers, and I'll make sure to leave a link to the article in the description. Check it out, where I do a little bit more of a written deep dive that is on John Mustard. It talks about his overall play style, what he could bring to the Carolina Hurricanes if they do draft him. I think getting him at 27, where he is currently ranked in terms of the central scouting, it'd be a great shot, a great place to get him there. So if you want to check that article, like I said, I'll leave a description. I'll leave a link into the description. And like I was saying earlier about back in segment 1, how the fact that he can jump into space, he's able to extend plays and stuff like that. We're talking about just his off ice moves and his hockey IQ. His hockey IQ is at 80 out of 100 in terms of how he's being prospected off of Cap Friendly. And the thing is, he's able to drive the net off the puck, and he's looking for what you would consider tips and rebounds. And being able to go do that, I think it's something that can really help the Hurricanes, because the Hurricanes as a more high volume shooting team who isn't afraid to shoot the puck from the point, isn't able to shoot off of transitions. So if you've got a guy like John Mustard who's screaming down the wing or going down the middle, and let's say you have one of your wingers shoot the puck and goes off the goalie and is a chance for a rebound, Mustard has the wherewithal, the IQ, just the vision to be able to go crash the net, go off puck, and be able to catch defenses off guard and go get that extra rebound, go get that extra shot. And that's something that I think with just how much the Hurricanes shoot the puck on net, if they're able to get the juicy rebounds or just get any type of rebounds in general and get the puck towards the net, there's a good chance John Mustard will be there. And that's the one thing that he's definitely been scouted on, is the fact that he's able to go get those extra shots, go get those extra chances, and be able to, go to what you would consider, net front presence. That's something that the Hurricanes definitely need. And I think, Mustard could bring that aspect of, a guy like Steph Nason who crashes his net looking for rebounds, or, is able to go tip the puck. And the fact that you have a guy in Mustard who already at 17 has the vision and has been looked at as someone who can be able to go get your tips, go get your rebounds, and bring that extra motor and that speed, I think that's a very, very good thing for the Hurricanes. And the fact, like I said, his offensive zone starts is up there, his compete level is up there. And, the physicality might not be there, but just being able to have that really high-end mid-80s shot grade, like mid-80s skating, IQ is where it needs to be. It's something that's really going to be beneficial for him. And I know I've said beneficial a lot, but it's something that, like I said, it is. And it's something that's really good for the Hurricanes to have. Yes, he is considered young for the class if you want to take something that is maybe a small slight to him, other than the fact that, okay, maybe he might not be the most physical player. He is, 6 foot 184. That still isn't too bad for a guy like him. The fact that he still has he has decent height. The weight's not terrible, but, the physicality might not totally be there, but the fact that his skill and his competitiveness and the fact that he knows the skate factor, the shot factor, those things will definitely work out on itself. And like I said, he's projected as third line, but he's definitely who could really play in the middle six, but more so top six, depending on how the team is formed. And I think with the Hurricanes, John Mustard could be, like I said, a really good second line center to your Sebastian Aho, who's your first line center. You've got the all-encompassing, well-rounded, high-end skill of Sebastian Aho, but then you have your second line center that could be, your John Mustard of the future. I'm not saying he's ready to go this upcoming 24-25 season, but give him like a year or two, just like how Bradley Nadeau played one season at the University of Maine. He's already signed his contract to go pro, whether it's going to be maybe in Chicago with the Wolves in the AHL, or maybe he plays really well like how Seth Jarvis did and cracks the lineup for the Hurricanes, more of a winger side. If Mustard can show in college with Providence College of how he did at Waterloo, I would not be surprised if you see him ready to go within a season or two to sign his ELC and be someone that the Hurricanes could definitely look at. Now, it could also mean, too, depending on, how much the Hurricanes view him, he could be ready to go this year, too. He could sign his ELC before he even go to college. So it really just depends on how that works out. But overall, Mustard feels like a guy who fits the Hurricane system well. He's got the high-end motor. He's got the speed. He's someone who plays a really good north-south game, does the net front presence that the Hurricanes need, and that's something that I think he fits into a need that the Hurricanes are really wanting to have. And the good thing, too, is he's really viewed as someone who can play really well on the power play, because even his power play grade is at an 85 out of 100 on cap friendly, in the fact, too, a lot of his ice time over the last year with Waterloo was a lot of even strength and a lot of power play. He was someone who averaged 16 minutes of ice time with the Black Hawks. And like I said, a lot of that was over on, even strength in the power play. And, he had 29 goals, but he also had 27 assists for 56 points. You'll take that any day of the week, and that's something that, is really something that's beneficial for the, how it was for the Black Hawks that get add to the Hurricanes. Mustard only finished second on the team in points. His teammate Gavin Thornton finished with 65 in 60 games. He had 22 goals and 43 assists, but John led the team in goals with his 29. And in terms of just his assists, he was still able to put himself in a spot where you're fourth on the team with 27 assists behind, Gavin Lindbergh, one of the other forwards, Jacob Altrecker, and Gavin Thornton, who finished with 43 assists. But overall, I mean, what more can you want out of this guy? Mustard had seven game winning goals, 7 power play goals, and he had 9 power play assists for the Black Hawks. And he was a plus 15 on the team. And like I said, he's more known as a shooter rather than a distributor. How about for the fact that he had 205 shots for the Black Hawks? That's more. He was way beyond over his next team. He was well over 50 more shots than his next teammate, which was Miles Hillman, who had 148. John Mustard is the only guy on the Waterloo Black Hawks that shot over 205. The next guy is under 150. So you're talking well over 50 plus extra shots on this team. So he definitely was fit into the high volume shootings of the Hurricanes. And like I said, being able to use his skill rather than be able to use his hockey IQ and, just the fact that his power play score, his shot, his skating are all in the mid 80s. Hockey IQ's in the 80s. He's not someone you can really rely on the penalty kill, but he's someone that you could use on even strength and power plays. And the guy, he's just super competitive. That can fit within, someone who could play middle six, but definitely I could really see as a top 6 guy for the Hurricanes, when it's all said and done. And I think he would fit in well with the team. So we are going to go over a little bit of him, going into the last segment of the show. There's a little bit more we got to talk about. That is John Mustard and how I believe that he could be a really good pick for the Hurricanes at 27. And we'll get to that here in a second on a Monday edition of Locked On Hurricanes. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to segment 3 of Locked On Hurricanes, your team every day. So like I said, at the back end of the second segment, we're going to do a little bit more of John Mustard, kind of wrap up the show with kind of like where he's at in terms of, like I said, central scouting. He does have at 27, but like what other guys around him could possibly, the team could look at as well, but why I think, Mustard might be the good choice for the Hurricanes at 27. So if you do go to central scouting, he is at 27, and there's some other centers and some wings around that spot that, the Hurricanes might look at compared to him. And, just trying to – this segment's going to be more so assessing, like, what other centers could make a case to be that guy for the Hurricanes at 27, but I feel like that John Mustard would probably be a better option. So another center you could, that might make a case, it comes in at number 25, that's Cole Beaudin of the Barrie Colts of the OHL. He's 6'2", 209, so more of a heavier set center. 28 goals, 34 assists for 62 points in 67 games for the Barrie Colts. Another center is Kamil Bednarik of the USA U18 National Development Team, which plays in the USHL as well. So John Mustard would know of Kamil really well. He's actually at 6 foot 185, 24 goals, 35 assists for 59 points. That's kind of another guy to take a look at. If you really want to take a look at more of a winger than an actual center, there is Maxim Massey of Chimuti of the QMJHL, 6'1", 186. He's a right winger, 36 goals, 39 assists for 75 points in 67 games. I mean, there are some other centers around those areas you might take a look at, but I think if you're at 27 and you're trying to figure out what kind of center you're looking at, I think John Mustard might be that guy. And like I said, I've talked to, the guys are on the Hockey Writers who, like I said, have done more of the mock drafts. They have a lot of articles over there. So if you haven't had a chance yet, go to the hockeywriters.com. Go look at the NHL prospects. They have a lot of articles talking about what their mock drafts look like, what their projected boards look like, player profiles and stuff like that too. So there's a lot of good stuff if you're looking for more of a in-depth look at how certain guys are viewed and stuff like that. But for me, if you're looking to add someone to the roster, I think John Mustard is probably the guy for the Hurricanes. He is graded as an A- from Cap Friendly. They do kind of have him as a third wing, but he's more of a center. That's what Waterloo says he is. And the fact that I think that third line projection is it could fit into where he might be a middle six guy, but I definitely see him as a second line center who, as I mentioned earlier in the show, would be a good complement to Sebastian Aho. He's got the speed. He's got the off ice, movement. He's able to slip through defenses. He's got the speed. He's got the pace. He's able to crash the net, looking for the tips, looking for rebounds. Someone that the Hurricanes, I think, desperately need in the fact that, let's say they do lose Martin Necas, and then you're waiting maybe a year or two to get your guy who's got that speed, who could play more north-south. I think Mustard would be that guy for the Hurricanes. Net front presence is the big thing for the Hurricanes that they desperately need. And if you're talking a year or two where you're halfway through Sebastian Aho's contract, depending on where you're at, where Seth Jarvis's contract is, depending on how much they give him, I think Mustard would be a guy who could slip into the top six really, really well. And who knows by then? You might have a Bradley Nadeau and Jackson Blake who are ready to go. And you could look at a future where it's Andrei Svechnikov, Sebastian Aho, Seth Jarvis as your top line, and then you're looking at a Jackson Blake, John Mustard, Bradley Nadeau as your second line. If it pans out for all three of those guys, that would be a really solid top six within like possibly 2 or 3 seasons that you can really look at and be like, okay, this is a top six that could really, really work, or whatever a combination of other wingers you want to use with John Mustard. But I think having Mustard in that 2C spot would be something of the future that the Hurricanes would be happy with. And I think he fits into the style of where he can play a 200-foot game, give it a little bit more time to, grow into a little bit more of a size, get a little bit more physical, but still be able to hold on to his speed, his tenacity, his competitiveness. And, he can be viewed as someone that the Hurricanes could play a lot of on the power play, and they do need a power play guy. And I think John Mustard could be a guy who you could put on, the PP2 line and be able to do some damage on there. Because that's what he did for, the Black Hawks at Waterloo, is that you play 16 minutes of ice time, but a lot of it is even strength and power play. And his power play grade, like I said, it's in the mid-80s. You'll take that if you're the Hurricanes. And if he's at 27, depending on who else is there, I think, Mustard would be the best option at 27. I wouldn't, there might be some other guy that they could view as, okay, maybe he's a good winger that they might need, or maybe there's just a defenseman they really love. But if you're looking at the team overall, I think you do need, there's a lot they do need some pure wingers as well. But I do think in terms of the center depth, I think the center depth is it's kind of weak outside of like your main 5 guys. Yes, you do have Ryan Suzuki coming back, but other than that, you look at where you're at in terms of what guys are going to be in Chicago with the Wolves. There's not a lot of centers that you could really, leap on outside of Suzuki. So I think if you go and draft Mustard at 27, I think he'll fit into the depth really well. He's someone who could really fit into the top 6 or the top 6 and be that second line center of the future for the Hurricanes that they definitely need. So I would say he's someone really to look at, and the fact that, you got a rookie sensation who got 29 goals, made the, all USHL first rookie team, was the USHL rookie of the year in his first year, led the team in goals. He's someone that you really want to watch when it comes to, the NCAA and playing at Providence College for the Friars. So he's definitely, I would say, to keep an eye on this fall in terms of college hockey, and to see if the Hurricanes take him at 27. But that will wrap up Monday's edition of Locked On Hurricanes. I hope everyone enjoyed the episode. I know it's kind of like it's the first draft preview with me at the helm of the show, so hopefully everyone likes it. Let me know in the comments, do you think John Mustard would be a really good guy that the Hurricanes could take at 27, or who do you think the Hurricanes could possibly take at 27? Let me know what you think about that. If you're on the the YouTube side of things as well, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the prospect profiles and what you maybe want me to talk more about when it comes to talking about these prospects and all that good stuff. If you're not on YouTube and you still want to interact with me and just talk about the draft profiles, you can find me on X at OneSureZach. The podcast is at LO_Hurricanes. If you go to the link tree in my bio, you can find all of my articles at the Hockey Writers, which I just hit 100 articles with those guys on Sunday. So big milestone there to be able to say that I've written 100 articles for the Hockey Writers. And my 100th article was about John Mustard. So if you want to take a look at that draft target article, like I said, I'll leave a link in the notes if you want to go take a look at it and give it a read, and where I get a little more in depth on the writing side of that. If you want to check out some AHL content that I'm doing over at the Calder Times, you can check it out over there. If you want to listen or watch on YouTube and my other show, The Surgecast, we got links on that as well. And for this podcast, there is a link to where you can listen to the podcast on all platforms and check and watch this show on YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, make sure to hit subscribe, hit the bell notification so you don't miss a show. Leave a thumbs up to let me know what you think about the show. Leave some comments. Let me know what you think about John Mustard as a possible pick at 27. Also share the show. And, if you're able to do that and, we can get some other Hurricanes fans to become everydayers just like you, we can get this show up to 1,000 followers on YouTube. We're over 875. The goal is to get to 1,000 and then obviously more past that. But if we do get to 1,000 subscribers, I might just do something awesome for you guys. And on the podcast side of things, make sure to leave a 5-star rating. And if you leave a review with your 5-star rating, I'll make sure to leave it on the show. But hope everyone's a great rest of their Monday. Hope everyone enjoyed the first draft prospect profile here at Locked On Hurricanes. And until next time, as always, let's go Canes.